Tom, thank you very much and welcome.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm coming to you live from the home office in Dallas, Texas. This is the farthest I've ever transmitted for a presentation, so you now hold the record for me. Great intro, Keith. I couldn't have written it better myself. We're going to talk very quickly, and I know we're going to be tight for time, so I want to get right into this. But I got to tell the story about, working in a growth company, because we're going to talk about growth and profit for AV businesses. And my first real job after I owned a company was working at Alford Media. And between 1991, when I started in January, and December of 2000, we grew from $1 million company to a $20 million company. We went from 8 employees to 80 employees. We went from 1 office to 3 offices. That was a huge amount of growth every single year through the go-go 90s. Now, that's not the sum total of my growth experience, but let me tell you, when I talk about growth and you're feeling a pain point and you're seeing an obstacle in your own business about why this is going to be difficult for you to do, I've lived through it. Ask the question. If you don't ask it today, send me an email. I'll answer it later. So no more about me. You can find everything about me on my website. Lots of videos, lots of good stuff there for you. Here's what we're going to talk about today. There are 3 really important factors for sustainable growth and profit. If we get these 3 things right, we can win. They are affected by and supported by the 3 pillars of your business, which are sales, operations, and finance. 3 things that have to work together for any business to succeed. I'm going to connect these things for you. And then at the end of the presentation, if you'll bear with me, I will share some things that you can do tomorrow. All right, quick state of the industry. I just want to acknowledge what's going on in the world, because we're going to talk strategy. We need to acknowledge what's going on around us. There is consolidation and fragmentation going on in the industry. I've been involved in AV for 35 years. That has always been true. It seems like there may be more right now, but when you have consolidation, you also have fragmentation. Every time you merge companies, other companies spawn through employees leaving and that sort of thing. This is a cycle that goes on all the time. Big providers are dominating the venues. You guys all know this. This has also been going on for a long time, but it is trending. We're probably getting down to 3 or 4 major companies worldwide over the next 3 to 4 years. So this is different. However, that doesn't mean there aren't opportunities for every one of us to do business. Buying groups. I don't know if you're seeing it in your marketplace. I've been seeing it a lot in North America and in Europe, where buying groups are representing end customers. This is more than just doing a middleman producer sort of thing. This is large organizations like Experian. Destination marketing firms have really made a big comeback over the past few years. In other words, what we have is channel disruption. So there's channel disruption is actually our new normal. And then small providers are increasing in number. In every market that I'm currently engaged, where I have clients, the number of small providers now compared to 5 years ago is probably increased by 500%. That's part of the fragmentation that we're seeing in the industry. But new competition, it's going to happen. It makes growth a little bit more difficult because customers aren't necessarily creating new business. It is a zero-sum game. So, growth. This is what I mean by growth. Growth is real. Growth is permanent. Windfalls are not growth. A big event that happens one time is not growth. A good year is not necessarily growth. Growth is what is sustainable. So we're going to talk about permanent, sustainable growth because that's what really counts. And in profit, when I talk about profit, I'm talking about profit that accounts for risk. It's enough profit. So it's the question that many people want to ask me is, Tom, how much money should I be making? The answer is, it all depends on your risk. So you want profit that's commensurate with the amount of risk in your business. And if you're in the live events industry, we're in a pretty risky business. There's not a, as one of my salesmen used to say, God is in charge of electrons. The success of the meeting we're having right now is dependent on people that we can't see, hear, or talk to. It's the internet, it's the cloud. So it's a very risky business, and whether or not we get paid depends on the success of things that are often outside of our control. Our profits need to compensate for that. So let's get right to the 3 keys. The 3 keys to growth and profit. Number 1, you have to have a value proposition. This is not your brand. This is not your marketing strategy. This is not your catchphrase on your website. Okay, a value proposition means that the sum of your parts, that the value is more than the sum of your parts. Your value proposition is how you improve your customer's condition. Right? It takes a significant amount of work, effort, and thinking in order to create a value proposition. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The other thing that we have to have, the second key to growth, is process. Well, the good news is that being AV guys and AV rental guys, process is kind of our world. You're probably mostly process people out there. I'm a process person. I was an operations manager when I started out. I love process. We're often very, very good at it, but process has its limitations. And the third thing we have to do is we have to be able to oversell. You have to sell beyond capacity to grow. Let's face it, how are you going to grow if you don't sell more than you sold last time? And if you wait until you have the capacity to sell, then you have process holding up your growth. Overselling is selling beyond capacity, and it is exactly what it sounds like. You have to say yes one too many times, all the time, in order to grow permanently. We'll put this all together. Now, let's think about what happens if we don't do one of these 3 things. For instance, if you don't have a good value proposition, then you're undifferentiated. I mean, look around the room. You probably have a competitor sitting very close to you. If you're renting the same equipment, which you are, and you're using the same people, which you often do, and you're talking the same language, you don't have a lot of differentiation. All you can say is, we do a better job than they do. If you can prove it, and if you can convince the customer of it, and you can deliver a more valuable outcome, then indeed you will be differentiated and you will have a value proposition. But if you don't, you're undifferentiated, and all you're going to do is beat each other up with price. Now, if you're great at overselling and you have a good value proposition, but you don't pay enough attention to process, then you're going to make costly mistakes and we're not going to make money. Remember, the victory here is growth and profit. So it's not enough to grow, we have to make money at it, and it's not enough to make money, we have to grow, and we have to do both continually. If you're good at process and you've got a great value proposition, but you don't oversell, then you won't have permanent growth. You might have windfalls, you might have a good month or a good quarter, okay, but it will not be sustainable. You've got to continually oversell to put enough demand on your system that you build up to and then you sell past again. It's a nonstop cycle. This is where the growth comes from. When I talked about what I dealt with for 9 years in the 90s, this is exactly what it was. It was year after year after overselling, continually improving processes, and having a value proposition that no one else could match. If we do all of these things, we have that sustainable growth and profit. That's the formula we're looking for. You with me so far? All right. Now, let's talk about the keys. Quick review: compelling value proposition means your perceived values must dramatically exceed the sum of your parts. Not just be worth a little bit more. You need to dramatically exceed the sum of your parts. Repeatable process means getting things done is in your DNA. That means you have a process for process change. And selling beyond capacity means that you exceed capacity, then you add capacity, then you repeat. What most of us do is we add capacity and then we sell some more, then we add capacity and then we sell some more. We never exceed our capacity. Okay? What happens when you do that is your profits shrink as you go along. You're using your profits faster than you're making them. If you want to make money and grow, learn to exceed capacity. Now, how are we going to do this? Now it gets interesting. There are three pillars in your business. There's sales, there's operations, and there's finance. I often say that business is a three-legged stool. You have to have all three legs the same length or the silly thing tips over, you fall off of it. Right. Even finance is important to your business. So sales's job is to deliver valuable revenue. Notice I just didn't say revenue. It's got to be valuable revenue. Operations' job is to deliver gross profit. More importantly, predictable gross profit. Not the gross profit that's left over when we add up all the bills. Gross profit we can forecast. Finance is what funds all of this. We need timely funding, and it's not just money, it's also capital for infrastructure, CapEx, new equipment. All of those things have to be funded. And these three things have to work together in order to run a successful business. So if we go back to the three keys that I just talked about, sales, operations, and finance each has a specific contribution to the three keys. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is what you need to understand and take home with you. All of the pillars have to contribute. All of the contributions intertwine. Everybody has to be playing on the same team. And I know that's not easy, but stay with me. Sales can contribute to your value proposition by talking about the what and not the how. If your business is built around adding up parts, here's the pieces of equipment, here's all of the labor, here's a discount, you're talking about the how. You're selling a transaction. Talking about the what is a customer term. What the customer thinks about when they hire you is, how is this going to benefit me? What is the outcome of this? What am I going to feel when this is over? How will this benefit my organization? Okay. It is not simply doing a checklist of the transactions. There's something they're trying to accomplish. We have to learn to talk about that. Salespeople have to build value proposition by reinforcing credibility. Credibility is huge. I could talk for an hour and a half about establishing and reinforcing credibility. Sales has to show that your company is an expert at being an expert. We are in the expert business. Everybody's got equipment, everybody has people, everybody has expertise. We can't compromise on being an expert. We've got to be an expert at it. Sales, and contrary to everybody who's in operations, contrary to popular belief, salespeople do contribute to process. As a matter of fact, they have some important processes they need to follow. Ideation. Ideation is the process of taking the customer's words and turning it into value for the customer. I just did a webinar on this a couple of weeks ago. You can find it on my website, an entire hour talking about the ideation process. I also teach a sales process for opportunity development called Qualify, Position, and Close. We have to go through these processes in order to find good customers with good value whose needs we can meet. And the third thing that salespeople can do in process is write outcome-based proposals. Anybody can write a shopping list and put it in a proposal with a cover letter and some pretty pictures. Outcome-based proposals help the customer see what it's going to be like to have done business with you. That's where we derive value. And sales is very important in the overselling process. They have to understand and they have to be empowered to sell from a limitless set of resources. I say sell from a bottomless pit of resources. They shouldn't be running to the computer to look up the projector inventory every time they're doing a quote. If you're doing that, then you don't have an overselling mindset. You have an operational constraint mindset. The process of selling outcomes instead of transactions is overselling. Job cost analysis, speaking of things I have entire webinars about, we have to be able to evaluate the potential gross profit of any job before we sell it so that we can negotiate. Okay, it allows us to pursue more profitable business, and it allows us to use dynamic pricing so that we can meet the price point for the different seasons of the year. That's how we maximize resources. That's how we contribute to growth and profit from the sales point of view. Now, operations, my friends, also contributes to value proposition. The output of operations is very, very viewable. Therefore, you need a franchisable process. And what I mean by that is you need to be able to teach anyone how to do what you do. You need to be able to copy what you do and install it somewhere else. Whether you needed to start a new branch or not doesn't matter. The fact is you have to understand your processes well enough that you could duplicate it at will. And you have to train on process and skills within operations all the time, which means you also need career paths and retention plans to keep people in operations. One of the worst philosophies that I've run into in my career is the idea that every person we hire comes through the warehouse and the goal is to make them a technician and put them out in the field. Who's going to stay and do operations? Where are the operations professionals? Those are the people we need to be training and retaining. Now, the things that operations do naturally, allocate resources, plan, and being flexible, all contribute to your value proposition. Overselling. If we have sales out there selling from a bottomless pit, we've got to develop a much deeper bench of resources. We have to embrace subcontractors. We have to have B2B relationships. We need to know how to find more gear, more people, more talent, more resources, another truck. This is what we do in operations. Another thing, floor space. Floor space. Floor space is worth a fortune. It's time, it's labor, it's efficiency. It's the most valuable piece of infrastructure you have. I will take floor space over a computer system any day because I can get more done. And the other thing that operations can do to contribute to your ability to oversell is just simply redefine the word busy. Okay? What keeps us from growing, probably more than anything, is the word busy. We're too busy. Oh, don't sell that. We're too busy that week. We can't do another thing. Well, guess what? You can always do one more thing. And when you've used every resource you have, and when you've hired every freelancer you know, and you've found every piece of equipment on the continent, your best customer is going to call on that busy, busy day and need you to do one more thing, and you're going to pull it out. That's what we do. That's what our business is all about. Now, what about those folks over in finance? Any finance people in the audience? No, we don't let them out of the office. Good. Finance can help us with our value proposition. Inventory, capital investment. This is very important. There are some people who are still suffering the effects of the worldwide recession and the many recessions that we've had since. The companies that have survived the best are the ones that continually invested capital all the way through. They may have invested less, but they invested continuously. Capital investment is not optional in our industry. If you're in the rental business, you have to buy equipment every single year. Marketing is not optional. You cannot grow and make money and sustain a value proposition without marketing. And finance often loves to cut marketing as soon as there's a down month or a down quarter. which doesn't make any sense at all. That's exactly when you need to have it. That's how you're going to fuel your growth. The other way finance can help us with our value proposition is make us good at paying bills. We want to be the buyer that suppliers want to do business with. You pay fast, you pay on, you pay on time, you pay consistently, you're easy to do business with. Finance can help with that. It has a huge impact on your reputation. Now, finance is good at process, just like operations is. We need budgeting, we need analytics, we need to know what's going on with the numbers. We need compliance. In other words, we've got to follow the rules, because when we don't, bad things happen. I would say probably in 50% of the companies I consult with, very much like your organizations, if you have more than 10 employees, PO compliance is a huge issue. And if your PO compliance isn't 100%, you're leaving money on the table, you're affecting your cash flow, you're going to have trouble forecasting, you're not going to be able to close out a month because you're waiting for the credit card bills to come in to find out about all the things that you don't know about. Purchase orders are how we get around that. It may sound like a pain in the you-know-what, okay? But if you're going to grow your business, you've got to understand the value and process from the finance folks. And if you want commissions, and if you want bonuses, and you want profit sharing, if you want plans that make sense, finance has got to be just as strong as the rest of the business. And finance can help us oversell, okay? Overselling is going to eat up cash. You're going to have to hire subcontractors. You're going to have to hire each other to do events in order to support your customers. We need a line of credit that allows for this. We need to be able to create terms that allow our customers to pay us faster, that make it worth their while to pay us faster. Generating cash is very, very important. And finance can help us with dynamic forecasting. They can give us the numbers that will help us make better decisions when we sell. Now, that was a whirlwind tour of 3 keys and how we support it within the organization. And I want to pause for a moment. I'm going to let you ask some questions here in just a second, but I want you to think about what's the biggest obstacle to anything I've just talked about in your organization? What's going to keep you from succeeding? Because that's probably where you want to formulate a question that, that you can share with us. Now, the most important thing in terms of a community that you can do inside of your organization is to develop a success mindset. If you don't believe that you're good at what you do, if you don't see the value in the things that you deliver to customers, you deliver to your employees and to each other, then you're not going to be able to do the things I'm talking about. Without success mindsets, even your best efforts are going to fail. Your confidence is going to falter. Fear is going to get into your decision making. You know, the number one reason that we lose valuable business, you know, when we quote on something and we don't win, you know why? It's fear. The fear comes out of you. It affects how you price. You price too low, that's fear. Customers sense it. They don't want to buy from somebody who underpriced their job. If we don't have a success mindset and we're trying to change our organization, then our old habits are going to take over. So be aware of the mindset that's going on in your organization. When you're trying to bring sales or operations or finance up, you're trying to elevate everybody to be equal so that they all can contribute to the 3 keys to growth. Okay? Success. Get the mindset of success. So I'm going to pause here for a few questions. I'm going to give you a little summary here at the end and give you some things you can talk about tomorrow. And Keith, is anybody there look like they even are thinking of a question, since I can't see you well?
Any hands in the air? Is this all extremely clear? Is it music to your ears?
Oh, it's absolutely terrifying. Let me tell you a question you should ask. Will that work? the question I would most often get from an audience like this is, Tom, we all use the same freelancers. We have the same labor community. How can I grow when everybody else is going after the same pool? If I oversell, it's going to be last minute. All the outsourced people are gone. Does that sound familiar? Let me give you a hint. If you're going to have an oversell mindset, one thing that you're going to have to learn how to do, as well as develop this freelance pool that you need to support your business, is that when you're busy, you will book freelancers first and book your staff last. And if you know you're going to be busy 3 months from now, you need to start booking all the best freelancers and tie them up for that time period. One, it means that your competition can't get them. Two, it means that you have more ways to say yes. And once you've filled all those jobs and your best customer comes with one more job, you've still got an employee or two left to take care of the oh by the ways. This is what success mindset means. It's planning and expecting to have demand and be ready to fulfill it. So did anybody else think of a question?
Any other questions? There's one coming in over the app, I believe. There's one coming in over the app here.
All right.
So stand by. Would like to ask it.
You mentioned something before about not showing fear in terms of budget, but the client tends to, like a lot of clients, particularly TODs and event producers, have worked in AV before. They know how to, I won't use the word manipulate, but they know that, we'll go at a certain level, knowing full well that, they're going to get us down on that.
Right. Right. So your comment, and it's true. We have trained our customers, particularly the customers that you have at this event you're attending right now. We've trained them very well about how to buy on price. They didn't learn that on their own. We taught it to them. So your challenge is to unteach it. Some of the things that you can do in this process, and at the risk of being very quick-witted about this, start first of all with changing the way you do proposals. Quit delivering proposals in line item terms. Put more things in packages. Do more, group or system pricing. Change the way that you discount. All of these things will force a conversation with the client, and they'll typically come back to you and say, hey, can you put that back the way that we've always done it before, because I want to compare you with someone else. And then you get to look at them and say, help me understand why it's important to compare my numbers with somebody else's numbers. Because if you're comparing numbers, what you're telling me, dear customer, is that what I do is no more valuable than what anybody else does. That's why value proposition is so important to what we do. We have to do a better job of differentiating ourselves. We have to do a better job of changing the questions. We have to do a better job of selling the what instead of the how. We've trained clients how to negotiate how. We need to untrain them and get them to start pay attention to the what. I hope that answers your question, at least in part. Anyone else?
Any other questions?
What AV trends are coming out of the States that you see?
In terms of technology?
Or just in general, anything that you can share with us here down under? Thank you.
Thanks. I will try my best. I'm kind of jaded. I've been doing this for 35 years. And I'm not seeing anything that's particularly new or interesting in the technology world or how people are presenting. I am seeing some interesting things in the presentation world, in other words, the business world, where more and more production rental companies are adding content creation and content management design, creative ideas. In other words, they're becoming the one-stop shop. They're replacing their channel partners, the event producers, very often. So that's the biggest trend I'm seeing in the States. I don't see it in Europe. Europe's still very channel sensitive. But North America, we're seeing more and more companies bypassing the middleman, the sellers, the suppliers, our side, bypassing the middleman and going straight to the end client. Anything else?
As a question out of comparison to the US, we don't have a lot of, well, myself personally, we don't come across a lot of competition where it's price versus price against other companies. But because of the changing technologies and the prices, say for example, someone's having an exhibition booth, they come in, they say, well, how much is it for a TV screen? Oh, I can buy it for half of that. Well, and then it's a matter of educating those clients.
Right.
But where is the step? Because even just coming out from the other session, the technology is so easy to use, so small to use. Where do you see the technology going in the future when half of these, as everyone in this room would have just seen, that you can carry a multi-room conference kit with cameras and all that in a backpack?
Right. Yeah, my very first keynote 15 years ago when I started doing this was built around the concept that technology is getting continually easier to apply and it's going to change our business. So this is an ongoing trend. Extrapolate it even further. Imagine that everything you could do that they could run down to the department store and buy, and how will you do business differently? It starts with how to answer the question. So when a customer says to you, oh my goodness, you're charging this for that monitor, I could buy one for that. Step number one, your response is, of course you can. That's a single level objection coming from that client. Of course you can buy this yourself. That's not why you're paying me so much. It has nothing to do with the price of the monitor. It has everything to do with getting it to you, packaging it, all the accessories that make it work. Okay. They are absolutely right. The monitor is overpriced. If you sell the outcome, then it's not going to be about the price of the monitor. It's about all the trouble you're going to save that customer so that they can have their exhibit booth and have it go well. Good question.
Any other questions?
Well, let me take this moment to say, hey, thank you guys very much. I know I have a few folks, followers in the audience, and I know I will be asked, when am I going to be in Australia? As I told Keith earlier before all of this started, I am trying to get there. And a matter of fact, I have got a wonderful 2-day workshop called Jumpstart Your Production Rental Business. It's a fire hose. It's me giving you information for 2 days straight. Everything I ever wanted you to know about the business. If I can find 10 executives and senior management to join me in this workshop, I will be happy to come over and deliver it to you. So you guys talk amongst yourself after this, and let's see if we can't find a way to spread some of this around. So let me summarize for you. You've got to put continual effort on all your fronts. Your value proposition, your process, and your ability to oversell are all critical to growth and profitability. In the process of doing this, you will find that sales, operations, and finance all have to make equal contributions, and we have to give them the resources and support that allow them to do that so that we can support these 3 keys. And if you adopt the success mindset, you'll find that this will go much more easily. So, 3 things that you can do now. When you get back to the office, I want you to take a second look at a project you did not pursue. Sometime in the last week, last month, you chose not to do something. You got an RFP, a request for proposal. You decided you were too busy. You decided the job wasn't worth enough. You decided the customer was subpar. you made some sort of decision to not quote on something, review it. Go back and understand why. You missed an opportunity to capture gross profit. What's the factors that affected it in terms of the 3 keys? You'll have some interesting insights. Examine your pricing constructs. I have yet to work with an organization, and trust me, everybody I work with, growth and profitability is really high on the list. Nobody hires me just because, you know, we want to communicate better internally. They say we want to communicate better internally so that we can grow and make more money. Your pricing constructs, your pricing premises are almost always, well, wrong. They're arbitrary or they're reactive. Very rarely do I find a complete pricing structure that is absolutely intentional. So speaking of old habits, when we think like rental people and we price like rental people, we get rental results. I don't want you to have rental results. Rental is how we manage our balance sheet. It means that we own assets and we reuse them all the time. If we do rental transactions, then we're just a rental supplier, and we may as well just, you know, have a price list and a desk and hand projectors over it. So look at your pricing constructs. And we're in a seasonal industry. We have busy times and slow times. And when you want to improve your business and you want to work on things is when you're slow, but that's also when you have the least amount of money. Go back there and talk to your accountant, your bookkeeper, whoever controls your money, and set up an accrual account so that you can save cash for slow time projects. It's just like saving for Christmas. It's just like we do at home when you want to buy a new couch. You need to do it in your business, because when you're slow is when you need to be putting all the energy in, having the company meetings, adding new inventory, fixing your supplies, getting some more floor space in your warehouse. So those are 3 things now for growth and profit that you can start doing and start that success mindset. If you signed up, if you tried to get the handout, and I hope you do, you can do it later. You'll sign up for my newsletter, Intentional Success, which is what Keith was talking about at the beginning. Intentional success is the philosophy that exceptional outcomes are the results of small steps in the right direction. You can't do everything I talked about today all at once. Do one thing and then do one thing more. So thank you all very, very much. I appreciate your time and attention. I know you've got a lunch to go to, but I'll hang around here for a few minutes until Keith unplugs me. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tom. Does anyone have any final questions or comments at all?
Yeah, you were saying before about changing the way you discount your price. Just in regards to changing the way you discount, do you have like an example of what you mean by that? Because obviously we tend to do, you know, we put together a package and we might just discount as a total percentage, or we might apply some sort of standard discount industry, or cross rentals or something like that. What do you mean discount differently? Can you give us an example for that?
Yes. If you follow my job cost philosophy and the way that I teach it, I actually teach rental companies how to sell from cost instead of selling from a retail price that gets discounted. I sell from cost and I add margin to it. So it's the opposite of a discount. So we can present differently to the client when we do that. A discount on a proposal in my system is actually a discount off the entire project. So rather than giving the client 30% off the equipment, I'm going to give them 10% off the entire job. I'm going to change the negotiation language. It's the same money. I also treat sub-rentals differently in a discount structure. So if you normally have screens, of a particular size, and you happen to be out cross rent or sub rent from someone else, that doesn't affect job cost and it doesn't affect your price. So a different understanding of how your pricing structure actually works is really what's called for here. So it's a different way to have the conversation, and it would take me another hour to lay that all out for you. But I've done webinars on it. I've certainly written about this. I've got other videos about this. Visit my website or send me an email and I'll tell you exactly where to find it.
Okay, we might wrap it up there. Tom, that was excellent as usual. I compared listening today to going to your favorite concert, watching your favorite band, and waiting for that specific little bit of guitar to come by, or that drum fill on the album, and you're just waiting for it to come, and it was the true epitome for me of music to my ears. So I hope that everyone else felt that as well, that Tom was really speaking that language. I certainly felt so, and certainly appreciate Tom giving up his time without a fee today to speak to us. As I said, this is the first time this has happened at a media conference. I mentioned to Tom earlier on before we started that we looked at passing around the hat essentially at the, to get Tom to Australia. Now, of course, that's just a metaphor for if anybody would like to. I certainly would love to bring Tom to Australia for one of his workshops. So if anyone's interested in that, then please let's chat about it afterwards. But thank you, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Maybe even if you do get to Australia, you might bring some of those Audiovisual Pro shirts with you.
Well, yeah, actually, it's an Infocom shirt. You can get them there. But thank you, everybody. It's been an honor.
I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.